and his rocking hat. If this was the 90s, he would be all that. It's me, my Scotch, and I, 'cause OB is the guy. OB is the guy.
Hello and welcome to Me, My Scotch, and I. I'm OB Spencer, and we are on the Spanish Sports Network, channel 250 on Zingo TV. You can get Zingo TV on iOS, Android. Also, you can find us on Roku, Google Chromecast, and all smart TVs 2016 and forward. This show is available in 4 continents and 35 countries. Also, you can find us on YouTube, and if you are watching us on YouTube, like us, rate us, leave a comment. We want to know what's going on so we can improve the show. We just had the midseason classic in Major League Baseball and a home run derby debut. And to discuss where we stand at the halfway point in Major League Baseball, we bring on Mike Ventola. He helped us in the beginning of the season, and he's back again. Mike, how are you?
I'm doing well, Obi. Pleasure to be back with you. And, of course, looking to enjoy a fun-filled evening here of talking some baseball. Should be a lot of fun.
Absolutely. So before I get into my questions and delve into this division, that division, who's hot, who's not, what is the story of Major League Baseball so far to you?
I think right now, believe it or not, what the story has been is how much the game is continuing to go through some transformation. And now that, Major League Baseball is continuing to take a proactive approach to try to, quote unquote, clean up the game, you're seeing a higher propensity in offense right now, more so than ever, because pitchers are not allowed to use any more spider tack or trying to, make sure they get their grips necessarily on the baseball. I really think that's kind of been the story, which is kind of sad in some ways, that I can't sit here and say, well, the Red Sox have really come out of nowhere and are winning, leading the AL East right now. And despite the Astros still overcoming their cheating scenario, are sitting 3.5 games up in the American League West right now. So, but I think that how baseball is continuing to transform to try to continue to be cleaned up is kind of where we're at right now.
So let's stick on that for a minute, because the transformation and, Garrett Cole had that big game right before the All-Star break. Look, it's not just sticky stuff. I can pitch anyway. Some hitters are like, I prefer them not throwing at my head, let their hands be sticky. Others are, I'm sure, happy about being able to see less spin on the ball. But other transformations or lack or retransformations, I don't know how you want to word it, they just came out and said, we're getting rid of these 7-inning7-inning games, doubleheaders next year, and we're stopping the man on second. How do you feel about those two changes being rechanged?
Well, it's oddly enough for me, and as you know, Obi, I spend a lot of my time in the minor leagues, especially working for the Phillies AAA affiliate in Allentown, Pennsylvania, and I see 7-inning doubleheaders quite often. I've seen the runner on second base more so than fans that just only go to major league ballparks. So for me, it's going to be just a little weird not seeing it on the major league side of things, but I'm used to seeing it quite often here in the minor leagues. But I think when it comes to Major League Baseball making those changes, it's funny because when it came to the runner on second base, I had no problem with it during the regular season, because sometimes, the regular season is a marathon, but I never wanted to see it come postseason time. So I guess for me, I think that it'll be a good thing that it's going away when it's all said and done. But I would like to think I'm in the minority. I know a lot of baseball purists believe 2 7-inning doubleheaders. You eliminate 2 innings in each game, a chance for hitters to better their stats, a chance for pitchers to go longer, maybe better their stats. But I actually think the 7-inning doubleheaders are a good thing, because sometimes too, especially now with the way the game is, that starting pitchers are not going as deep and that bullpens are being used more. I think it would have been a benefit to a lot of teams that really rely upon their bullpens. So for now, going back to 2 9-inning doubleheaders, You're putting more of an impetus on starting pitching, which I really would like to see because it's an old school way of thinking, OB, with starting pitchers going deeper into games. But we're not back to that. We're not near that. So for now, I think the 7-inning doubleheaders are, going away. I'm a little bit more disappointed with that, potentially going back, like I said, over the runner on second base.
So I from the people I've talked to, I do think you're definitely a minority in that 7-inning doubleheader. So I was with you. I like it. The games are quicker. Just count it as a no-hitter for me, and let's move forward. But a buddy of mine let me know that they were taking those doubleheaders and doing them as a day-night doubleheader. So you're paying a full-price ticket. You're missing out on 2 innings. That part I felt, he said that. I'm like, all right, that needs to be tweaked from the fan standpoint. You can't be charging me for a 9-inning game, giving me only 7. Although that 7-inning game probably lasts as long as a 9-inning game did 30 years ago. So maybe you're not giving me less time away. I love the runner on second now. I think there's a valid argument about postseason. Just like in hockey, we have the shootout in the regular season, and postseason we play the full extra periods. But in the regular season, I like that. Get the game over with. Let me go to bed because I'm turning the game off anyway, right? When I was a much younger man, I'd stay up all night watching the game. Hey, I made it through 18 innings. Now I'm like, I made it through 12 innings. Ugh. So I definitely wish they would keep that 7-inning going on. Another change, and I don't know how new this change is, but it was new to me because I have not watched a home run derby, and I honestly don't recall how long. I thought this timed format of the home run derby was really cool from a competitive standpoint, but really horrible to watch on TV because when someone hits a ball 518 feet, I want to watch a ball fly 518 feet, not watch a great swing and then go, where is it landing? Because the split screen. How did you feel about the home run tournament in general?
Overall, I thought it was exciting from the standpoint because you got to see history with Pete Alonso doing what he did. And when you look at the history of the home run derby, it's actually kind of hard to argue that Pete Alonso has not been the best home run derby hitter in the history of the home run derby, just with how many home runs he's hit. I think it's been in the 2 home run derbies that he's won. I think the number, at least in the final round each time, it's been close to like 80 total home runs of something of that magnitude. So which was really exciting to see. When it comes to baseball overall, I'm going to kind of be a little bit of a hypocrite after what I kind of just talked about. I'm a little bit of a traditionalist. I would love for the home run derby to go back to the 10 outs. And the reason why is because of just a big point you mentioned, Obi. You see home run hitters are driving the ball so far, especially when you get to a ballpark like Coors Field with that higher elevation, the ball's going to travel more. So you really want to see the distance, especially with technology. You're seeing exit velo rates. You're seeing the distance on home runs. Fans want to see that now. So I think going back to that 10 outs would be better. But we also, too, go back to what's been, in my opinion, a big crux of the issue with baseball is they're trying to, quote unquote, speed up every aspect of the game when in actuality, baseball is a game that really shouldn't be sped up. The beauty of the sport is that it takes pitcher to get hitter out, or in a situation in the home run derby for a home run hitter just not to, hit one out. So I don't think they're going to go back to the 10 outs. I think they're going to continue the time situation because of that situation. But one can only hope for OB here at this point.
Right. Well, we're gonna springboard off of Pete Alonso and start looking at some of our divisions here, and we'll start the National League East, which I'm very happy to see the Mets are slowly pulling away from. The Phillies, I know people. I'm in the Philadelphia area, so are you. The people here really had high hopes. I thought they were pushing it on their hopes, and with Acuna going down, I don't see the Braves doing anything. Do you see a situation where the Mets, who now win when DeGrom pitches, get caught?
I don't think so. And that's, and I'm sure for folks who are watching this from the Philadelphia area are saying, how can you say that, Mike? You work for our AAA team in Allentown. Well, Obi brings me on here to kind of give it straight and try to inform and hopefully educate in some ways. You look at the Mets right now, they have the best player in the game, and that's Jacob deGrom. Whether you look at pitcher or hitter, there's not a better player in the game right now than what Jacob deGrom has been going through here this season. It's been unbelievable. So as long as the Mets can stay healthy, and I do believe that they will find a way, especially too, they are hotly rumored to make a play for Chris Bryant. Now the Cubs are going on a fire sale. If they were to get a guy like Chris Bryant, then forget about it. What hurts Philadelphia, and it's tough to say because I have had the privilege of working alongside a lot of the guys in the bullpen for the Phillies, so I think their bullpen is what's going to hold them back. I do like their starting rotation with Aaron Nola, Zach Wheeler, and Zach Eflin. Matt Moore has been, oddly enough, been a good back-end guy all of a sudden. They're winning all of his starts. He won in game one of their doubleheader today. They're expected to get Chase Anderson back at some point. Vince Velasquez has been up and down right now in the rotation. And they have a good lineup, obviously, with Harper, Real Muto, Hoskins. But I just think their bullpen is what's the biggest factor potentially going against them. So, and I'm with you, OB, 110%. If the Braves still had Ronald Acuna Jr., I think they would have been able to catch New York. But being they don't, and I understand they just traded for Jock Peterson, who's a really good bat. It's just hard when you lose your best player. And I think it's going to be tough for Atlanta to overcome. The Nationals, they're working towards next season. I do believe Max Scherzer could be a trade option if the right team calls him for the right offer. And the Marlins are just young and still growing. So, but just my long-winded story. Yeah, I think the Mets right now, it's their division to lose.
That sounds about right. I'm happy to hear it. Central. I mean, I thought it was going to be the Cardinals. They haven't shown up. The Cubs, they're already selling. Can the Reds catch the Brewers, or is the Brewers themselves walking away?
I got to be thinking right now with what Milwaukee is doing. I think Milwaukee's going to win the Central. You know what's surprising enough too with the Reds? I didn't think that they would be a team that would be sitting just 4 games back. I think when I spoke with you back at the beginning of the season, I think you and I were both kind of high on St. Louis. Yes. I think I mentioned that if the Cubs stayed healthy and if the Cubs kind of had any little extra juice left, that maybe they could have been on a run. But for St. Louis, it's especially hard, especially with that lineup, getting a Nolan Arenado and having Paul Goldschmidt on the corner infield positions. They have a good pitching rotation. But right now, I got to think that Milwaukee, it's their division to lose. Part of me kind of wants to see Cincinnati do it, but I don't think they have enough firepower to catch the Brewers, even despite only being 4 games back.
All right. Makes sense. So now we're going to talk about the National League West, which is, I think, one of the biggest shocking on-the-field stories of baseball this year, which is the San Francisco Giants. It's not like the Padres or the Dodgers are doing poorly in any means, but somehow the Giants have pushed themselves in first. Do they have the stamina to stay in first? And if they don't have the stamina to stay in first, can they still look at getting in the wild card?
I think the Giants are contenders. And the reason why is because, and it's hard to believe, because Gabe Kapler had such a bad experience in Philadelphia. Philly fans were excited to get him chased out of town, but he has found the right magic in San Francisco. But I think large part of that is because he's got a very good relationship with the front office. Gabe Kapler, and I'm losing his name for the moment, but the general manager for San Francisco, they go back to their days with the Los Angeles Dodgers. So that helps when you have that type of comfortability. And Gabe has also been pushing the right buttons. This is a team that can play every phase of the game well. They hit the ball well. They pitch well. They play good defense. But I still think that even despite them being contenders, I'm not ready to quit on the Dodgers. Even despite, Trevor Bauer's on administrative leave. They still have Clayton Kershaw. They still have Walker Buehler. And Walker Buehler is still one of the best pitchers in the game. And for the Padres, as long as Fernando Tatis Jr. and Manny Machado, if they continue their offensive onslaught, and if Blake Snell and the rest of that young rotation can get some second-half mojo, it's going to be a fun race. That, to me, OB, may be the most entertaining race of all the divisions going down the stretch. And whoever's on the outside looking in, it is going to be tough to see because all 3 teams are deserving of a postseason berth.
Absolutely. That is just one heck of a division. Harris, I believe, is the name that you were looking for
Yeah.
for those people who are that interested in who the GM is. But yeah, I mean that division is just great. There was 2 weeks into the season, Tatis hurt his shoulder, and everyone thought it was over. Like we weren't going to get to see this kid, and we're seeing him, and he's doing things at his age that are just unspoken of. Except, of course, in the American League, where there's another guy his age, another junior, a guy who, when we talked at the beginning of the season, I mentioned him. You lit up. You loved him. Praise Vladimir Guerrero Jr. some more.
I certainly will, Obi. And I apologize for our viewers who remember that back early in the season, I had the privilege of watching Vladimir Guerrero Jr. along with the other legacy players, Bo Bichette and Cavan Biggio, coming up through the minor leagues. And people ask me, of all the players you've seen come up, who's been the most exciting? And to me, it's been Vladimir Guerrero Jr. and nobody else, because the kid, in my opinion, he's like his dad. I mean, Vladimir Guerrero was one of the better hitters I've ever seen. He was such a good bad ball hitter, but actually I think his son here has got a little bit better plate discipline because he doesn't swing at as many bad pitches like his dad did. So Vladimir Guerrero Jr. to me, and what he even did in the All-Star game too, just I think he powered a home run, I think at like 478 feet or something like that. It was ridiculous. The kid can absolutely hit. He can fall out of the bed and hit at any time. I like him playing first base. Not that he was a bad third baseman coming up, Obi, but I just feel like now having him play first base it's a position better suited for him. And you mentioned about not only with Vladimir Guerrero Jr., but look at the rest of that infield. That is, to me, the most exciting infield in the American League East, because you have him, you have Bo Bichette, Cavan Biggio, and Marcus Semien. And Simeon's on a one-year deal. He's going to be a big-time free agent option once the season is done. Wouldn't be surprised if Toronto found a way to keep him. And just kind of bringing things around here, I think Toronto, if they can just figure out their pitching scenario, maybe they can get on a run and catch Tampa Bay and Boston. I didn't think the Boston Red Sox would be sitting where they are right now, but for Blue Jay fans watching, don't give up hope, because a lot of the players I had mentioned.
Yeah, and I'm looking, and I think they're the one team that if you say, hey, who's not in the wild card who can get there? Well, I think it's the two teams in the East. I know everyone's like down on the Yankees, but they still have Judge, they still have Stanton, they still have Cole. And the Blue Jays have that infield, like you said. So I'm wondering. So let's do one more question about these Red Sox. Are they smoke and mirrors? Because just like San Francisco in the West, in the National League, nobody saw them coming.
Look, allow me to be a fan here for about 15 seconds. I grew up a Yankee fan. I'd love nothing more than to see the Boston Red Sox fall flat on their face. I don't think they are. And the reason why is because they've been able to get good enough starting pitching. Eduardo Rodriguez has really been able to bounce back from his myocarditis, after experiencing all the COVID symptoms that he suffered a year ago. Nick Pivetta, a former farmhand and a former Philadelphia Philly, he's kind of refound himself here in Boston, has pitched well. I like their lineup. I think Alexander with Bogarts and obviously with Rafael Devers, this is a team that can hit. They can play. They can field really well. And I still think, too, Tampa Bay is kind of in the opposite, where Tampa Bay, like Toronto, Tampa Bay has good pitching. I don't know if their lineup is enough to carry them through. I do believe you are right. I do think two teams come out. And look, I said earlier, I'm a Yankee guy, but the Yankees are going to be on the outside looking in this year. And I know they have a powerful lineup, and they can just get on a run, and that would be that. But I just think the Red Sox, and I think Toronto may sneak their way in there, are just going to be too much for the Yankees to overcome, because outside of Garrett Cole in that rotation, they haven't really had anybody to rely on. Jordan Montgomery's a good back end of the rotation guy, but Domingo Germán's been very inconsistent. They're not getting Corey Kluber back till next month. Jameson Taillon has been an extreme disappointment, even despite having to come back from injury. He has not been good. They don't know when they're getting Luis Severino back. So I just think there's too many questions, and they don't have. And the Yankees desperately need left-handed hitters in that lineup, and they don't have it. And they strike out way too much, and they ground into way too many double plays. So sorry, my fellow Yankee fans, you're on the outside looking in this year.
So I got one more question about the AL East, and I'm going to literally read the question as I read it to you at the beginning of the season. And your answer was yes then, and I think we all know the answer is yes now after this past weekend. While we are in the AL East, is there going to be a more inspirational story than Trey Mancini of the Orioles this year?
I mean, what that kid has been doing. I know, like, when it comes to the home run derby, like, you got to get behind, like, your guy. Like, I'm sure the Rockies were behind Story, and obviously the Mets behind Alonso. How would you not been able to get behind Trey Mancini? I mean, what he has been going through this season has been the true it's been heroic. It's been so inspirational. Obi, I actually hope they do a movie on it one day. I think that's how good it is. Like, I feel bad that the Orioles are like 25 games out of first place. But I think without question, he has been the most inspirational story in Major League Baseball, and I hope he finishes the year out on a high note.
So I don't know that there's much to say about the AL Central. We both picked the White Sox. The White Sox are doing it. What do you got? If anything, is there anything else to pull out of that division?
No, I mean, if you and I want to sit here just praise the White Sox, we could just do that, because no disrespect to the Indians, Tigers, Twins, or Royals, but sorry, guys. It's just it's south side of Chicago is going to be buzzing this year. I think I even told you, and I may apologize if I'm jumping ahead here, but we can certainly break it down further. But I think the White Sox, at a minimum, are in the American League Championship Series this year, at a minimum, because they pitch, they're hitting with Luis Robert, Yohan Moncada. Like, that lineup to me is so much fun. And I think I told you too this, Obi. The whole key to the White Sox this year was going to be on one person. It's going to be on Tony La Russa. Was he going to be able to manage this team accordingly? And he's been able to do so. So as long as they stay healthy and Tony La Russa does what he's capable of doing, just pushing the right buttons, at minimum, the American League Championship Series this year.
And speaking of La Russa, because he had that, so he's had a few public hiccups, and I'm not sure if they haven't been on purpose. He messed up the guy on second and said, I didn't even know the rule.
Right.
How he handled the home run by the rookie, by the 35-year-old rookie. I exaggerate on his age. Yeah. That seemed to be like, the rest of you're playing it old school. That's not how we do this anymore. And yet somehow those buttons are going off properly.
So I think for him right now, I think the best thing for him is just to stay quiet. Obviously, he's got to speak to the media constantly, pregame, postgame. But since those early season flubs or whatever adjective you want to use, he's been at least good, been able to calm down and just allow his guys to play. It's all he needs to do. Just put your lineup out every day. Let your team play, because this team is so talented that I just think that, only they can mess things up themselves if they don't get to the World Series this year. They're just too good, I think, right now.
So I'm going to say the guy who's probably challenging La Russa for manager year is sitting in Houston. He took a team with some ugliness on them. He's whining to the media about that ugliness, and yet it's kind of like he's taking the pressure off that team. So what do Astros in Oakland? Can Oakland catch up?
Selfishly, I hope they do, but I don't know if they will. I think with the Astros, they have Zach Greinke, they have Lance McCullers, they have a solid rotation, and the Astros still have a good lineup. I mean, Jose Altuve still leading the charge, even despite Garrett Cole throwing 129 pitches and pitching a complete game shutout. Then the next day, the Yankees are winning, I think by 5 runs in the ninth, Obi. And then the Astros come roaring back after what the Yankees had their great best win of the season. Turns to be then the next day they had their worst loss of the season. And that win for Houston, now may even propel them to another AL West division crown. So Oakland, they always have a young, exciting team. They always find ways to get some guys coming up from their farm system that contribute. They run, they play good defense. They kind of have a little old school mentality. They brought in, to me, a good, solid back end of the rotation guy in Cole Irvin, who had come over from the Phillies. He's been a good addition to that rotation. But I just don't know if, because they have some lack of experience, if that lack of experience is going to hold them back to try to at least catch the crown. But they are a serious wild card contenders at the minimum. I do think Oakland can find a way to be a wild card berth if they don't win the American League West.
All right, I'm going to put a pin in the, as they say, about that wild card, because I have another question about the wild card, but I have a question about the Astros and baseball and the bigger picture. In your opinion, both for your, how do you feel about this question, and how do you think Major League Baseball feels about this question? Which was a bigger sin by the Houston Astros? The cheating scandal that we're all fully aware of, or when they were horrible, fielding the worst team in baseball and yet had the most profitable baseball team because they were paying those guys so little at the time? Which do you think was a worse situation for baseball? Again, in your own mind, and as far as Major League Baseball itself was concerned?
In my own mind, I'm actually going to say the second part. Your second question, paying those guys so little, and just because at the end of the day the product's not good, after what had taken place. But then from baseball, they had to get out in front of the cheating scandal. So I think for Major League Baseball, I think the cheating scandal was much worse. Whereas in the second part, like you said, paying those guys so little, that the way the business is now, the way the game is nowadays, I think that's a little bit more detrimental, because not that, look, I didn't like the cheating scandal, came against the Yankees, it is what it is. But I think that, baseball, all teams steal signs. It's just that the Astros were just dumb enough to get caught. The Red Sox were dumb enough to get caught. Taking of signs constantly happens. Teams, they may not say it publicly, but they still do it. But I'm intrigued to see now that the Astros are kind of out of purgatory, just like the Red Sox. At some point, I do think people will, forgive and forget, especially too if the Astros can just kind of keep quiet, play hard, and kind of, if they, to me, because I think they're going to be a serious contender in the playoffs. Like if you told me, Obi, it's going to be like Chicago and Houston in the American League Championship Series, I wouldn't be surprised. So baseball has got to figure out if, what their opinion is going to be of these Astros. Now they could be the villain. This could be like professional wrestling, and they'll be the constant heel where they get booed, but that could still be beneficial to the game. So, especially in trying to get more viewers. So, but I do think eventually that the cheating side of things, that stuff will die down.
So, just so I can put myself on the record for this, I happen to agree with you on the first part, which was a worse scandal. It is my what you see on TikTok all the time. What conspiracy theory do you 1,000% believe? I 1,000% believe that when the Astros took that cheap team, took that farm system, got them into the World Series and won, that Major League Baseball punished them for that cheating scandal, and them particularly because they wanted to get at them for the previous situation. And whereas I think had that not been the situation, and they would have gotten as much coverage, like they wouldn't have let it out as much, and it would have been much more along the Red Sox situation and how it got exposed. I just feel like the other 20 owners came around, not all the owners, but the ones especially the big market ones came around and said, nah, you got to get kicked in the butt for that profit making and not paying players while the rest of us are out here competing, and then you go and win. Again, can't prove it, just a sort of gut feeling about it, because I think it was a worse sin. Now we're going to take that pin back out of the wild card story. Can Trout come back in time so that Major League Baseball can get the best player in baseball into the playoffs and we can get Trout and Ohtani in the playoffs? Can that possibly happen?
I don't see it this year. I mean, I just don't. Though, as much as I selfishly would like to see Mike Trout back, and even if he were to find a way to come back, I think it's still too much for the Angels to overcome. But I tell you this right now, if I'm the Angels, I am working feverishly behind the scenes and doing everything I can to get this team ready for a playoff one in 2022. That's if of course, a CBA can be agreed upon once the offseason hits, because I know that's another topic for another day, Obi. I'm sure you want to revisit that, but that's the big thing that's still waiting in the future is this CBA. But if and when baseball does play in 2022, the Angels, to me, have got to be a team to get on a playoff run, not only just for themselves from a franchise standpoint, but we've always heard so much about Mike Trout this, Mike Trout that. He's only been in the playoffs once. So, and now after what Shohei Ohtani's been able to do, the Angels have got to get to the postseason. Otherwise, it'll be a complete colossal failure.
So this is one of those things where I know it's gone on forever. I've heard of Ernie Banks. Baseball is the sport where the best players don't make the playoffs. And I wonder, as much as anything else, like people are like, oh, the world's changed. You don't want the slow game. I wonder if it's, come playoff time, I've been hearing in the back of my head Trout, or I've been hearing in the back of my head Ohtani. He's the biggest guy in baseball right now. But you're hearing these names through the season, but you're not paying attention because you're focused maybe on your own team, and then your team doesn't make it to the playoffs or gets eliminated. And those guys you've been hearing about all season were never there. And you're like, I'm going to turn off this TV now and start watching football or whatever else might be on. Do you think that's a problem for baseball, especially the newer? And is there a way that you can fix it other than just throwing everybody in the playoffs and hoping for that the starting pitching randomness gets you Ohtani and Trout in a few more extra games?
Obi, I'm glad you asked this question because I feel like it's a topic that has just been heavily discussed lately, is how can baseball continue to improve their game by attracting younger fans? For any parent that's watching, your kid or kids are probably 9 times out of 10 on their phones, watching YouTube videos, watching TikTok videos, tweeting, Facebooking, Instagramming. Major League Baseball has failed at marketing their sport. Why the NFL, the NBA, the NHL, NASCAR, golf, tennis, why those sports, in my opinion, continue to do well, especially within their own niches, is because they've been able to market their sports accordingly. Where Major League Baseball is at a crossroads right now, Obi. You have a battle between two eras of thinking. Old school, new school. And until they get on the same page, baseball is going to continue to struggle. And they will continue to struggle because the old school baseball fan says, well, we don't need to do anything. The advancements we're already making are not beneficial. Whereas the new side, the new age thinking is saying, well, everything's analytics and numbers, exit velo. We need to get bullpens into the game quicker. We need to speed up the game. And I think until baseball figures it out, they're going to continue to have trouble. But part of that all comes with the marketing. I think what can really help the game is get the Mike Trouts, the Shohei Ohtanis, the Aaron Judges, the Jose Altuves, the Clayton Kershaws. Get them in front of a green screen. Get them interacting on social media more. Get them in, whether it's doing interviews or just relating to kids as best as they possibly can. You look at the NFL. The NFL, to me, does a remarkable job in attracting young fans in to watch the game. Same with the NBA. They do an outstanding job. The NHL, I know hockey sometimes gets like an afterthought. They do a good job. Soccer does. People lose their minds when it comes to. I'll tell you this right now. I was watching the Euros. The Euros was tremendous. I mean, I was proud myself of some Italian heritage. I was proud that Italy won, but I watched. And until baseball can get it where, remember, fans want to have a relationship with players, coaches, and entities. You see that in all the other sports. You don't see that as often in baseball. Now, someone may be saying to me, someone watched me say, well, Mike, you always see players handing a baseball to a kid in the stands or signing a bat or interacting them beforehand, afterward. That happens all the time. Kids are on their phones. Get it where they could be more interactive with these younger people on social media platforms. And that's just going to be one of many ways that can help market this sport better. Because then if kids are starting to have relationships with these guys, with these players, then the game doesn't have to go as crazy, in my opinion, and trying to transform the sport in a way that it may not need to be transformed. So, but I think it's a great question. And it's until baseball figures a way to, solve the problem, I think baseball is going to continue to have its struggles.
And since I've started talking sports with people on TV, that question comes up all the time. Baseball struggling. And you boil it down. You use different words than I do. But my question is constantly, is it the product or is it the packaging? Because I go and I watch a baseball game and I see little differences in the game from the game that I remember. But the product is still kind of the same product.
Yes.
But the packaging is also still the same packaging. And that you can change in a minute. You could look, Shohei Ohtani should be on TV all the time. And he doesn't I know there's a big brouhaha about him speaking. His persona comes through without him talking. He is just magnetic without talking. How is he not on TV all the time? And you're right. When my kids are a little older now, but they used to watch back when Dwight Howard was a superstar, not some second thought on a team. He was on the kids' television shows on Disney. ESPN wants to put these guys on their Disney shows. They want them there. It feeds them later. They're not stupid, but it's just not getting marketed in a way. The one part of the product I think can be changed easily is speed up the switching of the sides in between innings. So I know, as somebody who moved, his team is now not something he watches. It's some other team. The commercial comes on, and then, I'm in my phone, and then, the commercial breaks for baseball, eliminate more of them. Keep on the game when a pitcher is warming up. Just some less. Find a way to get the commercials into the game itself, and they're starting to. You see it on the mounds. There's product placement. You see it on the walls. So I think that part of the packaging can help speed up the game and keep someone off their phone for a few more seconds so they don't turn that game off.
No, you're right. You're right, Obi. And, I know in the minor leagues, we use a pitch clock that has 2 minutes and 25 seconds that kind of speeds things up a little bit. So, but, just one quick note, you just saw what came out into the movie theaters, here in the United States today with Space Jam. Space Jam, it probably won't be as good as the first one with Michael Jordan, but you rest assured with LeBron James and the Looney Tunes, and you get families that are bringing their young kids to watch the movie, even if they don't find the movie that exciting, but they're going to see LeBron James. And LeBron James, just by doing this movie alone, is going to help attract younger fans to watching the NBA. You don't see that too often with Major League Baseball movies. Real quickly, and I'm sure you have more questions. Remember, I'm 33. So I grew up with this. I grew up with Sandlot. I grew up with Little Big League. I grew up with Rookie of the Year. I was obviously a little young when Major League came out, but a lot of the kids' movies I mentioned helped me love the game of baseball. I was already a fan, but really, I had that interpersonal I felt like, the Sandlot, still quoted, Little Big League, Rookie of the Year, League of Their Own. You don't see a lot of those, baseball movies. And I understand I understand that's an entertainment value, but sports has become so entertaining more so than the true X's and O's. A lot of these players now, they're like, as much as they work on their craft, they're entertainers. So I think if Major League Baseball can that's another avenue too, where they can market, get a little bit more creative. Could be another way to, get more fans in the seats.
So I this entire conversation is revolving around something that was a question I was already going to get to you, but the Sandlot, it sent me in a slightly different direction. So we'll get back to this other question I have. I have circles on my paper. But even when the Sandlot came out, which I got 15 years on you, but that was such a great movie. That was such a wonderful movie. That was a movie that made you want to watch baseball, play baseball, another whatever. At that point, though, of course, it was referencing the great Bambino.
Yep.
And in a way, I think that's all part of the problem. Right? Baseball is still stuck on Babe Ruth. Babe Ruth is probably still statistically one of the greatest players ever to do it. He was a marketing monster back in the day. Like the way people think of Jordan and LeBron now, that was who Babe Ruth was. They marketed around him. It was not just he was a great player and that much better than everybody else. He was also the marketing focal point. This goes right back to what we're saying. We're not getting that now from baseball. Baseball took my generations of players, and you can't even make a movie about them. You cannot make a movie about Barry Bonds and his failure to win a World Series, but having probably the greatest series of all time, when he had 8-9 home runs, and that, like, trying to put a team, you can't do it because you've totally villainized him and not even putting him in the Hall of Fame. Kurt Schilling has some political views that people don't like, but that you can't make a Bloody Sock movie now because people hate Kurt Schilling. That's a great story. That is that Boston Red Sox movie should have happened already, but people are like, yeah, but one of the heroes is going to be. I know that in Hollywood they're going, one of the heroes is going to be Kurt Schilling. Somebody at ABC and ESPN has got to get that pushed through. Roger Clemens, the greatest pitcher I've ever seen in my life. I don't care when he started using steroids. He was unreal for 2.5 decades. Not in the Hall of Fame. I'm not taking my kid, like my generation aren't taking their kids to the Hall of Fame because Clemens isn't there and Bonds isn't there. Hated them as much as I did as a Met fan. Both those guys. Hated them both. Still the best players I saw with these eyes. Hey kids, here's the history of the sport. And I think so now the writers whose job is baseball, and they're old school and they're protecting the sport in some way, I think are not protecting the sport, which may be kind of along what you were saying.
No, you bring up a good point too there, Obi. I think when it comes to history and it comes to Hall of Fames, Major League Baseball can't get out of its own way. Look, the NFL, the NBA, the NHL, you never hear any issues when it comes to their Hall of Fames. And there have been some players that have been inducted into, the Naismith in basketball, Canton with football, and, the NHL, I think, is up in Toronto. So,
yes,
the National Hockey Hall of Fame. So, there's been some crucial moments where guys have done some, questionable things, off the field. When I go to a museum, I want to see history, whether it's good history or bad history. And I understand we're trying to, when it comes to baseball, try to eliminate all the bad history and only have good history. And well, guess what, kids? Barry Bonds took performance enhancement drugs, allegedly. Never tested positive, allegedly. Roger Clemens, Mark McGwire, Sammy Sosa. Baseball fails to realize that the summer of 1998 saved the game, saved baseball. People were not coming back after the strike in 94. People were not coming back. They turned a blind eye to steroids, though as much as they want to say, no, they didn't. They were, testing and all that good stuff. They might have been. They were, but not to the extent of where they were going to put Mark McGwire and Sammy Sosa on trial there in 98. Rafael Palmeiro, Juan Gonzalez, guys that were, pivotal part of that home, at least to start out, pivotal part of that home run chase. And then it just came down to McGwire and Sosa. Those guys should be in the Hall of Fame. But what you do is you put them in, you want to asterisk, whatever, but then you teach and you say, this player took steroids. It's a part of the game. That season in 98 with McGwire and Sosa, you can't erase it, no matter how much, but they're trying. When Bonds hit 73 home runs, what is it, back in, 2004, I think it was? I think 2000, somewhere in there. I think he hit 73. It might have been give or take a year or two. You're just now going to erase all that? You can't, as much as you try, And here's the best. You talk to players back 50, 60, 70 years ago. Amphetamines. They were taking greenies. I mean,
Absolutely.
And what I'm trying to say is that I'm not condoning their behavior. It's wrong what they did. But when I go to Cooperstown, I want to learn about all aspects of history, even the bad ones, because you want to sit there and say, you want to teach the next generation, don't do this. It's wrong. Rather than just erase it, not learn from your mistake. Well, because guess what? If it's not written in the storybook, at some point, all of us who witnessed it are all going to die, and that's going to be it. We're all going to leave. And then who's going to be there to sit there and say, well, I had heard? No, teach them. Say it's wrong. And that's how, too, why we could stop going back to Babe Ruth and Ted Williams and Joe DiMaggio and Jackie Robinson. I mean, all phenomenal players. I love talking about all the players I just mentioned there, but you need to start marketing, like you said, the next era of players. And what can help, too, is because you mentioned about Trout and Ohtani, they play at 10 o'clock on the West Coast for East Coasters. Maybe baseball needs to look about having more day games. Try to implement day games where you can and put them on national TV more. Even if the Angels are struggling, get them on TV more, and that'll help.
Yep. And we didn't come that far off the topic of where this next question I have for you. You mentioned to me you love golf. And one of the things, and I don't fully understand the whole way it works, but golf is, in the PGA, they're going to reward their players who have large social media followings. And you may know the full details better than I do. I haven't figured it out. And as soon as they did that, all of a sudden, Koepka and DeChambeau have a problem with each other. Like, I don't believe it for a second. I'm like, these two guys said they're going to give me extra money. Let's fight. Let's stop like each other. That's a simple solution, or simple isn't the right word, but we have the CBA coming up. That's a solution in the CBA that they can do, or teams individually can do. How do you feel about that? And then just go right into the Open that we're watching right now, and Chambeau blaming his clubs.
Well, I think for Bryson DeChambeau, he needs to worry about more in bettering his game. It's funny, too. He just came off the match with him and Aaron Rodgers. They were victorious, obviously, over Phil and Brady. So, I think for DeChambeau, I know like golf's trying to it's funny, we're talking about faces of the sport. Golf's trying to rally around DeChambeau. I mean, DeChambeau is a major winner. I think he won the U.S. Open a couple of years ago. So, but right now he's been struggling in the most recent majors. Like you look at the Open right now, Obi, Luis Oosthuizen, I may be pronouncing it, what he's doing right now. I think he's 11 under after 2 days. It's been fun to watch him play for us here in the United States. There's about 4 or 5 players that are sitting right around where Oosthuizen is right now. You have a couple players at 9 under, 8 under, 7 under right now. It's really a good major where we're at right now, where guys are scoring. They put the cut at 1 over. So there are going to be a lot of really good golfers that are going to be, getting ready to play here over the weekend. So I think it's going to be a fun and exciting finish. So, but I'm looking forward to seeing golf kind of figure out, Obi, on who this next face is going to be, because Tiger Woods is no more. I mean, I think Tiger's eventually going to work his way back in another year or two and play again. But I think right now they're looking at DeChambeau, but I think Jordan Spieth is a guy that could be that type of guy. You know, I know they're also wouldn't mind a Rory McIlroy or a Ricky Fowler. Guys are kind of hovering. We're just waiting to see who's going to be the guy to pop out and take the baton away from Tiger Woods.
I have a few more golf questions, but we have about 5 minutes to start drinking. So I'm going to go ahead and grab this Bullet Bourbon and give this puppy a good taste.
Oh, yes.
I'm going to pour it out. Now, Bullet is, although it's a bourbon, it's pretty rye. Has a lot of rye, so we expect some of that to come through. Take a look at that nice color. Very clear amber.
Smells good.
Smells very nice. What do you think? You know, good? It's caramelly?
Absolutely. I got this on. I've had Bullet before, so I'm looking forward to having this again here with a friend. So
excellent. Let's give it a good swing.
Yep. Ooh, that was good. Nice and smooth.
Smooth, but very spicy.
Yes.
Like lots of complicated flavors. Like I want to say pepper.
Yep.
Just all in there. There's no holding back on the flavor of this, which I love.
No.
So I have another whiskey. I'm going to go pour myself some Four Roses, but I was very disappointed in the Open in Zalatoris. I think I'm saying his name right, getting hurt.
Yeah.
Because he's the guy who excites me as possibly the next guy. They're focusing on DeChambeau because he's young enough. Rory hasn't been able to run away with it. Spieth hasn't. Right. What do you think of Zalatoris' game?
I like it a lot. When you take a look at the way golfers play, for me, when I was growing up, I always liked watching Fred Couples play because Freddie Couples had a nice, easy swing. He's a little bit more aggressive than a Freddie Couples, but I do like him with the way he drives. He hits a long ball. He's got a good short game. And to me, if you can have a really good short game, it's going to benefit you. You know, what's allowed Phil to be successful is Phil's got one of the best short games that the game of golf has seen in quite some time. So I think for him, if he can kind of just bring it all together and just continue to play too, he just needs to continue to gain more experience. I want to see him place more in some of these majors. I think that, I'm with you, Obi. I think he could be a guy that can certainly put himself into the conversation.
All right, I got about 2 minutes left to talk about this Four Roses and then ask you a final question.
Yeah.
This one's a little darker, a little more ambery.
Mm-hmm.
It smells a little fresher, more floral.
Okay.
Let me get this down and stop talking.
I'm jealous. I wish I had some right now, but I'm going to continue to.
Yeah, take your other one, please. Don't keep drinking that. Don't. A very subtle flavor. I like more flavor than this. It's a little fruity. I really like the bite and the spice of the Bullet more. So we got about a minute left. Where can we find you? Tell us about the Iron Pigs. Let us know what you got going on.
All right, so real quickly, folks, if you want to follow me individually, go to Twitter. I'm at Venting Daily. So once again, at Venting Daily. I love to tweet, so tweet me a question. Tweet if you want to follow along. But if you want to follow my work, I work for the Phillies AAA affiliate, the Lehigh Valley Iron Pigs. They're based in Allentown, Pennsylvania. You can go to ironpigsbaseball.com. Find them on Twitter at Iron Pigs or on Instagram at LHV Iron Pigs. Would love to, hopefully, for those of you who want to venture to a minor league game, we'd love to have you. We're a really fun operation. Team is struggling right now, but we definitely like to try to put a good product day in and day out. So would love to hear from you, fans. Definitely give me a follow.
Michael, I'd like to really thank you for coming on for our penultimate show. Time is up. Next week, we have our last show of the season. Looking forward to it. Thank you for watching, everyone. Thanks a lot.
It's a show with Obi and his rocking hat. If this was the 90s, he would be all that. It's me, my Scotch, and I. 'Cause Obi is the guy. Obi is the guy.